Hi everyone, welcome back to Parkitect and welcome back to our new park, Six Flags Discovery Mountain. So in the last one we built the entrance building that you can see is in there. Thanks to someone who commented, I can't remember who it was, I will put your name on screen, that told me that you can basically just put gravel or different types of textures underneath the paths to stop the weeds and stuff like that clipping through. So at some point in this episode you'll see me go ahead and do that. Unfortunately for some reason there's no option in the settings to turn that off, so you can't just keep the grass underneath, which would be easier, but you know, at least we've found a sort of solution to it. So building the main street today, not going to be anything like the Europa one we did. You know, the Six Flags don't tend to have a big main street. In fact, the one I build here is probably a fair bit bigger than what you'd realistically find in one of these parks. But it turned out how I wanted it, so you know, it doesn't have to be completely realistic. What we have done is a lot more of the backstage stuff in this, which I wanted to get in, so you'll see some of that later on. I'll talk more about that as and when I build it. The first building here that I'm doing is from Six Flags over Georgia, I believe, which is the same as where the entrance building is. Quite a few of these buildings are from that park as well. I think it's one of the parks where they've got the nicer architecture. When I was just googling images of sort of Six Flags main streets and Six Flags buildings and stuff like that, there are actually some really nice themed buildings in the different parks, which you don't always notice as much, because when you think of Six Flags you just think of the big thrill coasters. You sort of forget that there's any sort of theming there, because they are more amusement parks rather than theme parks. But going by what I could find on Google Images, I think we put something together quite nice here. I tried to keep the scale a bit smaller as well. Like the main street I put in Europa was pretty big. Like the buildings were 4-5 sort of levels high, which is far more than realistically what you'd have in these sort of parks. And also the people in the game are pretty small in comparison, so really you don't want anything higher than sort of 3 levels. Yeah, I mean this first building it's not, it looks nice, but it's very generic. I'm just using sort of some of I think it's from the building kit, the windows there, where you can put your own windows behind them to give them sort of extra level. It's a trick I've seen other people do. I've seen Astrotron do it with like the normal windows, and I think it looks good to add that sort of depth to a building. And yeah, other than that, not that much to say about this one. Just put in the sort of awnings and stuff for a bit of decoration, and then the back of the building is just a plain wall, because that will go into the backstage area, which you can see I've started putting in, but it's very basic at the moment. Okay, so just adding some lampposts, benches, that sort of thing, and onto the second building. If this is the one I think it is, yes it is. So this is again from Six Flags over Georgia, and it's a sort of sweet shop, like a candy shop that they've got there, but I mean it looks so cool. It's like a gothic sort of theme, and I thought we can replicate that really nicely in this game. So that's what I'm going for, like the black bricks and stuff. If you've been to this park then you'd recognise this building. If not, what I did for a lot of these, I had a look on Theme Park Worldwide, on some of Sean's vlogs. He did like a USA road trip last year, and they went to a lot of these Six Flags parks, and obviously he films everything there, so I just paused it on bits when he's walking down the main street to have a look at the buildings, and copied them straight off there, because there's not a lot I can go by in real life, to be honest. Like Six Flags Magic Mountain doesn't really have a main street. As much as I've looked on Google and looked on Street View and stuff, I couldn't really see any buildings particularly they had there. So it's a couple of other parks that I've never been to that I'm using here for the reference points. And yeah, just adding like loads of sort of gothic detail with various pillars and pipe pieces and all that sort of thing. And I think it came out looking pretty good in the end. Something that I've started doing a bit more of in this park as well, and you'll see in a minute, is like the custom signs for the shops and stuff. Like, so I've been finding signs on Google and making my own text up and stuff and putting them into the signs, because I do think it looks a lot better to make them look more like real shops and less like just a building that's been put there for the sake of it. I mean, some of these just are literally facades with nothing in them, because you would find that in a main street in a lot of parks. But yeah, some of them I do like giving things a purpose, even if it's just a big building for a toilet block or something. And yeah, it took me a while to get all these sort of windows and awnings just how I wanted them. Like you see, I start off with the normal text sign and then quickly change my mind. So yeah, I literally googled like a text generator that you can make custom text with. You type in whatever you want and then they put it in the style that you pick. It's really cool, free to do, really easy. And yeah, the only thing I think about these windows is scale wise, they're far too big compared to the other ones. But I don't know, maybe you would see that sometimes in real life, where they just make a building that's, you know, a lot more over the top, a lot more exaggerated. And then at the top I'm putting a sort of fence. I don't really know what you call these. So we have a fence going around a rooftop. Just makes the roof a bit more interesting. And all these buildings are just facades, so they're pretty much just shop fronts. If you can see them from several different angles on a park, then like the first one I built there, then I will build three sides to them. But if you can only see them from the front like this one, it is just a one-sided building, and then a little bit of backstage behind it, and anything I don't want people to see from the park I'll cover up with foliage and that sort of thing. It took me a while here to get this door right as well. I think I just ended up leaving it as an empty space maybe. Yeah, I just left it open like that. So I mean, just for a little candy shop like that, it is a massive building. But I'd say this is one of the sort of, not weenies because it's on a main street, but it's one of the sort of centrepiece buildings that draws attention to the area, or the street rather. The shape of the street as well is a lot different to the one I did before in Europa. Whereas in that you just walk straight down and there's buildings either side, just like a Disney park. But with this one I wanted something in my head, just made me think that all the Six Flags parks I've seen, they sort of curve off into different directions as you go in. So I wanted to do that with the main street here as well. So each way you go to different parts of the park, you go to different sections, different rides. On to the next building then. I think these are just empty facades. Obviously having a look at that window that I did before, but it was way too big, so sort of trying to make a smaller version of it here. And stuff like this does take a lot of playing about with, to be honest. It's worth it if you get it looking good in the end, but it can be frustrating placing stuff completely off grid to get it in the right place. You know, putting things down then taking them out because they're slightly wrong and then putting them back in. Then obviously, like, the sides of it go down a bit further than where I wanted, so I've just hidden it with an awning and a border piece. But all in all, pretty happy with that. That's a very basic small building, really just something to fill the space. And I can't for the life of me think what I put in next to it, but we'll see in a minute. I've got a feeling it might, oh pardon me, might just be another shop facade. Oh no, it is a store. Little cookie stall there. Ah yeah, and I did a sort of, this is similar to the chocolate shop I put in the Belgium area in Europa, but a lot smaller. And I'm sorry, I'm going to keep going back to reference that park, but I suppose that's what you kind of do, and you compare stuff you're building to what you've built before, and how we're different, because in a way it's a similar sort of project. It's a big project, a big park, but following a completely different idea. You know, I mean, this is on a different continent. This is an amusement park, not a theme park. But there's still some building styles that you'll see me carrying over from Europa and from other builds that I've done in the past. I think that's the problem sometimes with this game, to try and get variation and not just build the same things time and time again. Must have lost a bit of footage there, but again, it's a very basic building, just a toilet block there with a little bit of detail on it. And like I say, trying to keep this whole street very generic, as it probably would be in real life, other than the big gothic candy shop. But I think that looks pretty decent, so yeah, I'm happy with it. Just adding a little seating area here with some foliage, just to give the area a bit of greenery, a bit of variation. And building this up, it took me a while. I had several times where I started building this wall and then knocked it down, just because I wasn't sure if I wanted it all the way up, but then looking at it from the front it looked a bit daft with nothing behind it supporting it. Although it's just a facade, it still is, you know, a building behind with a more backstagey sort of wall behind it, I suppose. First ride then for the park, the teacups. Couldn't really think what to put here, so I just went with something really standard. And then I had a bit of a play about with the bendy, curved, whatever you call them, fences from Shy Guys set 4, which are great for making, you know, curved paths and stuff like that. And the Path Covers Plus as well, which I think are by Max Freak. And all the pathing you see everywhere actually here is the textured path covers. I'm sure they're from Max Freak. Had a little play about with it here. I think I had them on the wrong level for a bit. It's construction anarchy sometimes. Raises stuff up by like 0.1 point of a grid. And just decorating it all with some foliage and some planting. And again, another seating area. I think I do change some of the benches actually. in a bit, but we'll come back to that because I've got the recolorable benches. Anyway, on to the next building. This is the one you'll see straight ahead of you as you go in. I'm noticing now that it's not completely symmetrical. Oh yeah, here's where I changed all the ground underneath the path to stop the weeds coming through. And then back to the building. Yeah, it's not completely symmetrical as you go in. The other building hangs over a fair bit, but I don't think that really matters, to be honest. This building is from Six Flags St. Louis, or St. Louis. Yeah, I'm really happy with how this one turned out. It's very generic, but kind of classic American theming, I suppose, North American theming. And again, I think I tried to put the curved windows in this one, but varied them again, made them a bit different, giving a bit of detail to the pillars then. I think just little things like that, using the shapes, can really make your buildings a bit more interesting. Really think it's worth doing sometimes. Yeah, here's what I do with these windows then. Just copying the same ones over there, yeah. Doing right. I do apologise if there's a break in the audio then, and if it ends up being a bit, how do you say, sort of out of time with the video. Obviously I will go through in Premiere Pro and try and check, but I had to stop and do something then. But obviously I'm watching the time lapse while I'm talking about it and recording, so there can sometimes be a second or so where the recording starts at the wrong time, but hopefully I'm able to go through and sort that out before this goes up. So anyway, back to what we were talking about, putting in these windows, and I'll give them a bit of variation. The top bit there is more filled in rather than a bit of window, and then the bottom bit is a large windowsill. Then I want a fancy door to go in here. Yeah, so we play around for ages with with my favourite piece in the game, which, if you don't know by now, then obviously I use this piece all the time, because it's just one of the shapes that you don't really get with the original game, and I think it looks so good. Yeah, I'm in love with this piece. So yeah, just thinking about a door frame then. Then at first I thought that door looks too big, but then I extended the borders and stuff around it, and I think it looked alright in the end. Especially when you compare it to the windows. Windows are meant to be a bit smaller than doors, so... Did I keep that in the end? Yeah. Changed my mind and just stuck a pavilion in there. Made things a lot easier. And then stuck some window boxes on, which I think always adds a nice bit of scenery to a building if it's looking a bit bland. And I think that's pretty much it for this building. On to the next one then. It took me ages to get the colour right for this. I'm sure it's another building in Six Flags St. Louis. Again, just looking on Google Images for this one to find something, some buildings that I could actually put in that would fit in with the area. I changed the colours and everything so many times on this before I get it right. It's another quite generic building, but it's got a good bit of colour variation on it to make it a bit more interesting, a bit more traditional as well with that chimney. And then I'm using the pirate roofs there, just recoloured from the pirate mod. Yeah, like here you can see me try and change the colours again. I'm sure we don't settle for that either. I'm sure I'll go back and try it another time. Yeah, and this is in a minute I think you'll see me put in some of the backstage behind all this as well. Again, using some of the poles there for the Pirates pack. The Pirates mod actually is another really good one because you can recolour and resize pretty much anything in it, and it can be used not just for obviously your pirate theme, but you can use it for in so many different contexts. Such a useful one to have. There's some really cool lamps in it actually that I use quite a lot in Europa. Yeah, like I say, don't have to just be used for their purpose, so you can use them for all sorts of different things, different themes rather. Yeah, so here I'm working on the backstage area of the main street. Didn't really know what to do here, to be honest, so I just put in a staff room and a training room and some staff pathing, and then a few little details like the no entry signs. The other big sort of, well, not big, but the other backstage area that I did, I filmed off camera. That's the one behind the first lot of buildings I put in, because I didn't think it's that interesting me making it, but it turns out that one's actually a lot better than this one. Although I do want to still keep it as hidden as possible from the actual park, so that's fine. Obviously the buildings are in front of it, but I'm going to have to probably add quite a bit of foliage and stuff like that behind it just to keep it hidden away. And then finishing off this building. Is that the colour I settled for in the end? Not sure. I might even go back to it another time. This building turned out really nice. A small little sort of cafe. Probably wouldn't be a restaurant. Well, I don't know if I called it a restaurant, but somewhere they can sit and eat anyway. I'll give it 2 floors with some seating inside. I actually did a bit of an interior for this, as pointless as it is, because you can't see it from outside with this isometric view, but it just felt right. And at least you can see me building it now, so it's not a complete waste of time. Yeah, I think this is another one from St. Louis, Six Flags St. Louis. Oh no, actually no, sorry, this is from Six Flags over Georgia, I think. Sort of going between the different screenshots and Google images and stuff. So I always think you need some sort of frame of reference when you're building a park like this. If I'm doing a campaign or a scenario, I just try and make things up as I go along. But for something that's a bit more specific, like this park, I'll try and get it fairly realistic. Use actual reference images. Yeah, like you can see, I even put some wallpaper up there. Not that there's any point really. Give it some lighting, so at least if you see it at night, you should be able to see light through them windows from the outside, which I think will look good. And then here, just finishing it off with the borders and stuff. I do really like the borders in this game. I feel like they complete a building, if you know what I mean. They make it look finished. It's something I always struggled a bit more with in Planet Coaster, because you've got wooden beams and stuff like that, but I just find them a lot more difficult to place. Although if you do play about with that a lot, you can get something looking good. The good thing about Parkitect is you can get stuff done a lot quicker. I mean, this took me 2 sittings, probably about 6 hours in total of filming here, probably about 7 hours of gameplay. Yeah, sort of built half of it and then went back to it. Okay, this building took me ages to get right. Probably spent a good hour and a half on this. It's based on a building at Six Flags America, which I believe is in Washington or Baltimore maybe. Not really one that I was even familiar with, to be honest. I don't know a lot about this park, but it had this really cool sort of generic building that I wanted to copy, and it took a lot of playing about with to get right. I go for several different ideas and colour schemes, and a lot of this is just me putting stuff up, knocking it down, starting again, which I don't think, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. Not everything you put up the first time is going to be how you want it to look, so it's worth doing it again if you feel you can do a better job. With this, I just used a little technique where you use the art shapes to make I always forget what these are called, a roof window thing. God, I'll put it on screen. If I remember. But yeah, you know what it is. And then just putting loads of windows around. I copied the colour scheme off the actual building that I had the reference image for, but then I changed my mind and I thought them yellow windows just didn't work. And I think I changed them again actually to a darker sort of brown after this, or a less one with less contrast, if you like. And then just finishing it off with borders and pillars and all that sort of thing. And then I found a way of changing the colour of the roof bit on it, which looks a lot better once it's done. And that is basically just recolouring it and then adding more shapes underneath, like so. And yeah, I think that looks really good in the end. Pretty sure I have to do one and then I do the 3. I'm not sure if I have to completely remake one of these actually for the other side as well. I mean, then they're probably not exactly where they should be, but it still looks alright. Decided to make my own sort of chimney piece here and added a bit of smoke to it. I hope it doesn't look too industrial, because that's not what I was going for, but the smoke in the chimney just felt right. So I thought that sticky outy bit was a bit too big. Spire, would you call it? So I put a smaller one in, recoloured the walls, and then I think we do another recolour at some point for this one. But like I say, this took a lot of playing about with to get right. Not going to add an interior here, just putting some flooring from the bits you can see on the outside. I've got the doors left open, just because I think that's more like how this building would be in real life. It's a gift shop type building, so you want people to be walking in there, you know, and spending their money. Always try and think with a business head as well when building these parks, not just architecture. Yeah, there we go. I think I cut a bit of the footage out there because it was getting really long, or I just forgot to record. Probably the latter, actually. But yeah, it's almost finished now, this building, which leads us on to the final building, which was an absolute ball ache because I had to build it twice because the game decided to crash on me just after I got it finished the first time. In fact, I built it 3 times because the first time I built something that I just weren't happy with at all. It didn't look right in that place. So in the end I went for this building, which is also from Six Flags Over Georgia. Or I think it is anyway. I'm not sure what building it is in real life. Here it's just a cake shop, just so that people go in and get some food, because I'm going to put a seating area outside as well, because I felt we need one in this general area. Yeah, this will be the second time that I built it, because the first time it crashed and the footage didn't record. Fortunately, I'd just say, or it just auto-saved just before I put that final bit of roof on the last building. If I had to remake that, I probably would have been in tears. So yeah, this one's quite simple. I mean, it's all the same colour, all the same texture from the Taste of Adventure pack. Feel like them bricks had a nice sort of bit of variety to the normal bricks you get, the steampunky ones. Which again, like a lot of the pieces in this game, very versatile. You change the colour of something, put it in a different context, and you've got a completely different look to it. Which is why you can sort of make your own themes up in this. And yeah, the little picnic area goes in there. Bit annoying because I wanted the hedges around the edge, but some of the seats were going into the edges, so in the end I didn't have them all the way round. I know that people clip straight through these benches anyway, but they do work, they do sit on them as well. So yeah, just have to ignore the fact that the guests are clipping through. You know, at least they don't just get stuck. It's not Sims 1. And then I decided to add borders here to make it seem more like a pavement than a road kind of idea. And I think, although it's a subtle thing, I think that really improves the look of the actual street itself. Coming up to the end there then. Last thing I do, I put in a Six Flags store sign using the Six Flags font. And that is it for our main street. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.